Good morning. How are you guys? All right. So how many of us, real quick, how many of us are connected on social? Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, something like that. Awesome. How many of you have never heard of me before? Let's just do that real quick. Not so quick, everybody. It's the biggest ego shot you've ever seen when 1,000 people raise their hand. I've never heard of you. How many of you thought Snapchat was still for teenage girls and guys cheating on their wives? Just by a show of hand. Third largest platform there is today. I want to really quickly just kind of set the tone here. Everyone's in real estate here, right? How many of you are brokers? How many of you are agents? How many of you are confused? How many of you are never going to raise your hand no matter what I say right now? There's this thing that occurs in the first 5 minutes where people are trying to figure out whether they should listen or not, and it's like no matter what happens, can we just get over that? I'm going to be with you guys twice today. I have a ton of great information for you, and I want you to get a lot out of today. Is anybody in agreement with that? I will talk to the 7 people over here that clapped when I said that until everybody else gets in agreement on that. Guys, I don't know about you, by a show of hands, how many of you have ever gone to an event, got super excited, and didn't do anything as a result? Say aye. How many of you have ever had a disconnect between what you intended to do and what you actually did? Say aye. How many of you have ever been on multiple diets? How many of you know someone who's been on multiple diets? Okay? And so what happens is many times there's a disconnect between what we intend to do and what we actually do. And what I try to do is I try to help you to create the bond, create the bridge between those two things, because it's frustrating, right? Like, any of you ever been, isn't it true you can get more frustrated with yourself than almost anybody else on this planet? Maybe other than your spouse. No? The single people are like, what are you talking about? No, you'll see. But we get frustrated with ourselves because we have these moments of inspiration. We have these moments of motivation. We have these moments where it's like, okay, everything's clear. I'm now going to do what I know I'm supposed to do. I can see the end, and then something happens. Our patterns get in the way. Our environment gets in the way. All these things get in the way. I want to take a moment before I start here, and I want to say thank you to RealComp, because I get the opportunity, guys. I go all over North America and beyond, and I'm just going to tell you, you're very lucky. Not everyone does this. Not everyone takes the time to rent out a place like this, takes the time to bring me in, takes the time to do all the work, the man hours, and everything else. So if we could take a moment and just give a hand real quick to the people. So for those of you that were quick to raise your hand and had never heard of me before, I'm going to give you a really quick overview, and then we're going to really kind of get into it. I'm excited about today because I get to do 2 different sessions with you. You know, unfortunately, one of the things about there's many things about my job that I love, but one of the things that I'm not in love with is the idea that many times I have to go in and I get hired to do like a 45-minute keynote, and I'm in and out, 45 minutes off to the next flight. And the problem with that, it's like a drive-by shooting. It's like, here's some jokes, everybody feel great, but I can't go into any details. What's really exciting about today is that I'm going to get to go into a little bit of detail with you, because nobody in this room is going to be successful or not be successful by accident. Do you know what I love about this industry? Is that it's not an accidental industry. Nobody in this room is going to have a successful real estate career because you're lucky. You can luck into listing your grandmother's house, right? I had a guy last year, he said to me, my mother listed her house with someone else. What should I do? I said, you need to get an office job. Like, if your mother is not listing her house with you, like there's no script for that. There's no dialogue. Like there's just reality, okay? And so this is an industry that isn't accidental. I think one of the things you're going to love too is that I am not a guy that gets up in front of you and talks to you about how to sell houses and how to whatever that's never sold a house. I don't know about you, but I am sick and tired of hearing from people tell me how to sell houses who have never sold one freaking house in their life. Is anyone else with me on that? We're up to 9. So when I was 26 years old, I got named the #1 realtor in the country under the age of 30. When I was 27, I wrote my first book that went bestseller. And I come from a home with a single mother, 2 kids who didn't even graduate high school, let alone college. And so while environment matters, it's not the only thing that matters. I believe that everyone's different. I think one of the greatest lies that we buy into is that you can be anything you want to be if you just try bad enough, if you just want it. Anybody ever heard that line of absolute bullcrap in their life? Like, I want to be a center in the NBA. Now what? I don't exactly fit the profile, right? I'm not 7'1", I'm not from Southern, I'm not. And so one of the great lies we buy into is that everybody can do whatever they want to do, and yet the truth of the matter is, everyone has completely different potential. True or not true? Completely. One of the things we do in this industry and so many other industries that is absolutely robbing us is constantly comparing ourselves to everyone else in the industry. And here's the issue with that. There will always be someone better. But what I also know is that for some people in this room, the worst thing that ever happened to you was perceived success. We have people in this room that have been selling houses for 30 years. They're known as top producer Bob. And yet they don't even know what they do to become successful. New agents come in. We bring those because we go through hours and hours of real estate classes that teach us how to pass a test, but not how to actually sell a house. Right? And so we get in and we treat this industry like multi-level marketing. Just talk to your family, talk to your friends. Maybe you'll sell enough houses because 87% of you are going to fail in the first 5 years. So if we can just get you to sell to your family and friends, we'll make enough money, on to the next. And we bring them in and we go, what are we supposed to do to be successful? Because I just learned how to be an attorney in my real estate classes, and I was told if I talk anything legal, I'm going to get sued. So, is this true? So then we go, I don't really know what to do to make you successful other than talk to all your friends and family, so go talk to top producer Bob. And and if you're in here and your name's Bob, I'm not referring to you. I haven't looked at the social streams. Please do not get offended, okay? It's a common name. And so what happens is that we send Timmy, it seems like a good young name, we send Timmy over to Bob and we say, Bob, teach him how to be successful. And Bob doesn't even know what he does to be successful. I don't know, you call people back, you have a good book of business. I've been doing this 30 years. And here's the reality of our industry today. What it took for Bob to be successful 25, 30 years ago would never work today. We are a completely different world, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. So guys, again, for those of you that don't have any context with me, I was raised in this industry. I was my mother's unpaid assistant for many years. There was probably child labor laws and other things that were in existence that we weren't aware of. But I loved this industry. I was the one that loved it. My brother hated it. I was always kind of a weird kid. I played sports and everything else, but I used to show up at practice with a briefcase. Go ahead. I'm confident enough now. You can laugh. There's nothing in the briefcase. I didn't even have a code for the briefcase. I just saw my mom carrying a briefcase. And I just always had this different, see, here's what I know, guys. I'm a natural born entrepreneur, and so are so many of you. I hope that you understand that you are not a salesperson, you're an entrepreneur. Guys, an entrepreneur is somebody who works 80 hours a week so they never have to work 40. How many of you are entrepreneurs? So I'm a natural born entrepreneur, guys. I was the guy, I didn't have a paper route. I had 9 of them, and then I subbed them out to other children. I had like a local bank and loan. I was the kid who hoarded money. I had so much money, for a kid, I had so much money, and people used to come to me to borrow money, and they used to be like, all right, I need $5. And I'd say, great, I want 10 back by Friday. And they'd go, I'm not giving you 10 bucks by Friday. And I'd say, then go somewhere else, Mom. And ultimately, I got my 10 bucks by Friday. This was always how I thought. This was how I thought when I got into the real estate industry. This is how I think today. By a show of hands again, how many of us are connected on social right now? On Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat? Holy crap, wow, a lot of you. Okay, so all of you, most of you, know me as the speaker trainer, the guy that runs the 3rd largest coaching and training in North America, the guy that does the marketing, that's less than 1% of my life. Think about that for a second. That is less than 1% of my life. Why I matter to you and why you need to listen to me today is because I'm pure operator. I execute on what it is that I talk to you about. I am actively running businesses. Everything that I'm going to teach you today, I am doing it to you. Do you understand that? About 4 years ago, I'd put out a YouTube video, and if I got to 100 views, I was ready to celebrate and put out a big PR release and whatever. We released one 3 months ago that's about to cross 100,000 views. Okay? Like, everything that I'm going to teach you today is what I'm doing to you. Period. It works. So why I matter to you is that I'm an executor. I'm executing on everything. Why this session matters to you, where we're going to be talking about get out of your way, and we're talking about you, and we're talking about the biggest issue you have, which is you, why it matters to you, is because I am not one of these motivational speakers who gets up every morning and goes, Jiminy Cricket, it's a lovely day. Like, I have to practice everything I'm going to talk to you about today. I don't know if I should tell you this or not, but I've already started, so I'm going to. I am equal parts love people as much as I'm equal parts hate people. My wife says it's like being married to Larry David. By the way, for any potential speakers, make sure you use an example that applies to 4 people in the audience. It's a great way to create some energy in the room. But what I mean by that is that I'm a natural introvert. Do you understand that? Like, my favorite place in the world is my hotel room. I have the ability to flip the switch, and some of you know what I'm talking about. Because you're in sales, and sometimes you wonder if you're doing the right thing, and sometimes you wonder if you're in the right career, and sometimes you wonder because you're not a natural, hey, I can't wait to see people, I can't wait to, but you have to learn to flip that switch, right? And so I am just as much love people as I am hate people. Like, I don't want to love people. Do you understand that? Literally, my life would be so much easier if I could just be like, you know what, screw you, just move on, it's your fault, bye. Like, my office has to protect me from me. Because if someone calls the office, I want to take it, and I want to help, and I want to, that's in me. But also in me, like, anybody get to the end of the day sometimes and you're just like, anything but people? Guys, don't worry, your clients aren't in here right now, okay? Saw somebody looking around like, is this a setup? It's a dark theater, it's all good, okay? But anybody know what I'm talking about? Like, that's okay if you understand some of the things that I'm going to talk about today. So anyway, I grew up in the industry, I was a little different. I believe everybody is different. I believe that one of the worst things that happens to some people in here is success, or your idea of success. There are people in this room right now that technically are being successful, and yet in the quietness of your own home, you know that you've built a prison around yourself. And you're scared to death to go on vacation, and you're always checking your phone, and you're always like, when's he going to get funny again? But is it true? Because we never actually learned how to run a business. And so what happened was we got into the scaling hours business and just taking care of people, and we started running around acting like customer service reps every day and then wanting to get paid like salespeople. Is that too soon? Are we good? Is it true, though? And we don't have scalable systems, and we don't have, and then we're like, hey, I'm successful. Come learn from me how to be successful. And yet we can't even take a vacation without worrying, And so we're going to talk a little bit about those kinds of things today. So I went through that. I went through, when I was in high school, I worked full-time. I was the youngest MA in JCPenney history. I used to get out of school at 1:53. I'd drive 103 miles an hour, throw a suit on, and work every single day 2 to 10. I turned down, I didn't end up playing sports in college. I stopped playing sports my last couple of years of high school because I was working. People always say, do you regret that? I say, no. Look at me now. I'm happy with my choices. It's not like I was going to go pro or I'm happy with that. But it took work. I get many messages from people now from my high school and stuff. They go, oh man, like you're so lucky. You're so lucky. Oh my God, you're so lucky. So lucky. I think you know how much I love that. You're so lucky. Like, remember when you were partying? Yeah, I threw a suit on and went to work. Like, remember Remember that Drew Carey show? Do you guys remember that? And I remember one episode where they went out and they were bowling as adults and they were amazing bowlers. And everybody's like, how are they such great bowlers? And they were like, remember when you were at prom? Bowling. Remember when you were at bowling? Like, that's what just popped into my head. So we're going to learn about some of this stuff today. We're going to learn about how to actually leverage ourselves. In this first session here, we're going to talk about this right here, because everything I talk about throughout the day from a business growth perspective, from a revenue perspective, means nothing if you don't get this down right here. How many of you know right now you're operating at less than your fullest potential? Say aye. How many of you know somebody operating at less than their full potential? Say aye. Are they in your seat? We're going to get full participation, guys. We're going to do it. And so we're going to deal with that, because the issue many times is not everything else that we try to put it on. When I was growing up in that single-parent household with welfare and all that other stuff, were there other people going through the exact same situations? Okay? And did it help me to use that to not succeed? Let me tell you a way that I live my life that I think a lot of us need to adopt in here. The world becomes a lot easier when you come to the conclusion that everything is my fault. I am dead serious. When you come to the conclusion that everything is my fault, the world becomes a lot easier. Because as long as you're playing victim and you're going, well, the economy, well, my spouse doesn't support me, well, that client did this, well, I have no control to fix that. But when it's my fault, what now? You following? You get into some kind of a relationship dispute. Look, we all know your spouse is less than, we get it. But you made your choice. So as long as you're sitting there going, well, they did this and they did that and whatever, is it in some cases true? Does it help you? But when it's my fault, what can I do? I can fix it. Are there deals that fall apart in this business we have no control over? Is it true? I have this belief in this industry, it's okay to have a bad day, it's okay to have a bad week, it's okay to have a bad month, it's not okay to have a bad 1099. Because a bad 1099 speaks to what? You guys ever met someone to just have excuses about everything? Right? Like, don't look at anyone right now, but right? Like, do you know someone who just always has excuses? They're always the victim. It's always someone else. Does anyone know someone like that? I can promise you 10 years from now, they're going to be in the same place. But when I stop and I go, my fault, I now have some bit of control over what I'm going to do, where I'm going, how it's going to... I wrote this book called Get Out of Your Way. And by the way, guys, I'm not selling you a thing today. I want you to understand that in both sessions. I'm not selling you a thing. When I'm done here, I'm going to run back to the expo. I'm giving you free books, and I'm going to sign them. You're not even going to pay for them. And that cost me money, just so you know, okay? Like, put the guard down. I see it with some of you still. Put the guard down. I'm not selling you a thing, okay? So I wrote this book called Get Out of Your Way, and I think I only brought like 80 of them. So when I'm done, just get over to the expo, first 80, okay? Now you all just got like, you know, define only 80. Like, let's just relax. So I wrote this book called Get Out of Your Way, and the basic premise of this book was that most people's issue is not that they don't know what to do, it's that they don't do it. Do you all know how to push a bar up and down over your chest? So I assume I'll see you in the gym later. Most people's issue is not that they don't know what to do, it's that they're not doing it. We live in a society right now. I had a kid come up to me a few years ago, and he came up to me and he goes, that was all great. Oh my God, I'm ready to run through a wall. I'm going to eventually get to all that stuff. But like, what's the one secret to shortcut everything? This is what he said to me. What's the one secret? And I said to him, sir, with all due respect. And by the way, guys, whenever you say with all due respect, what is coming? That's a lovely dress you have on. Like, that doesn't usually follow with all due respect. So I said, with all due respect, the one thing that you could do is never let those words come out of your mouth again. That's the one thing that you can do. Because most of our issues are not that we don't know what to do, it's that we don't do it. We're looking for shortcuts. We're looking for overnight successes. I believe anything that can be built overnight can be torn down overnight. You follow? Anything that can be built overnight can be torn down overnight. We would rather, if you want to lose weight 500 years ago, what do? Diet and exercise, right? You want to lose weight 250 years ago, what do? You want to lose weight yesterday, what do? We'd rather go watch some infomercial with a belt that shakes our stomach enough, and if you act right now, you get 2 for $19.99 because anything but diet and exercise. We laugh, and yet, how true is what I just said? You want to separate from the majority? Look, I am well aware that 90% of you today are going to leave here fully motivated and not do a damn thing I talk about. And I'm being kind. I'm rounding down to the nearest 90%. I'm not where I am because I know how to change into a cape in a phone booth. You understand? Everybody wants to come up with all these reasons why this person's successful and this person's not and this person whatever. Just show up and do the work. Stop looking for shortcuts. Stop having such a lack of patience. I got a thing from someone recently. The world has changed now. We've got internet lead. This is how people are interacting now, whatever. They sent us a thing. After 2 weeks, they had 37 new leads. And they went, I'm going to cancel. This isn't working. How in the world do you know in 2 weeks when the average person's process is 3 to 18 months? But that's our mentality. We laugh. We go, oh, isn't that true? And yet that'll be us tomorrow. You want to win in this room? Don't be that person. Show up. I had a thing when I was 26 years old. I started with me and 5 other friends. We made a commitment that by the time we were 30, which was a long time ago now, we were going to get into the best shape of our lives. One person at the age of 30 was still doing it. Wouldn't it be funny if it wasn't me? If right now it was and that is a good guy, right? Just put in the work. That's it. Yes, you need to know strategy. We're going to talk about that stuff today. We're going to talk a lot about motivation does matter. Motivation is the gas that fuels a car, right? The car is the strategy. The motivation is the fuel. When you live on either side of these realms, when you're going, all that matters is execution, motivation doesn't matter, and then you get the person over here that's just always foaming at the mouth, motivation, but they never do anything, they don't work. They have to work together. You've got to be motivated to ultimately follow through on the strategy that you learn. What good is a car without gas? You might be able to listen to the radio, you might be able to lay back and take a nap, but you're not going anywhere. You follow? We need both of these. That's why the get out of your way message matters. Because we need to know what it is every day that's going to fuel us. What is it every day that's going to get me to do the things that I know that I should do? Most of you sitting here right now know that you're not at the level. Everyone raised their hand when I said, how many of you know you're not at your peak potential right now? Right? And everyone went, yeah, I kind of get it. But almost nobody in this room, is it because you have a lack of intellect? You're not smart enough? Almost nobody in this room, that's the issue. We're asking the wrong questions of ourselves. We're not taking stock of where we are. We're not leveraging the greatest engine we have, which is ourselves. We're getting up in the morning and just kind of rolling around, and whatever happens, happens, and I'm going to act all day like a customer service rep putting out fires, but then I want to get paid like a salesperson. Do you know what most people do when they get up in the morning? Most people get up in the morning and they have this moment, and this isn't you, most people. They have this moment where they lay in bed and they think to themselves, what do I have to do today to look like a functioning adult who's not lazy, but get back to this position in this bed? And watch season 4 of Game of Thrones. That's what most people do. Anybody ever had that thought? How do I get back to this position in this bed? Look, guys, don't lie to me. We're too soon in our relationship for you to lie to me, okay? We are too soon. I've had that thought. Sometimes the bed is nice. It's just, But when you lack the passion for what you do every single day, when you lack the ability, the know-how, to know how to run that motor that is yourself, you'll never experience what I get to experience on a daily basis. Do you know what most of my mornings consist of? Most of my mornings consist of laying in bed trying not to wake up my wife because I want to go to the office at 4 a.m. Yeah, I'm a freak. Sometimes I do it. But I don't want to wake up my household. But I'm just laying there because I have so many things running through this, and I have so many because I'm passionate about what I do. Now here's the thing, guys. You're sitting here going, I sell houses. I'm not passionate about another escrow. Any of you in the industry longer than 5 years? Do you still get super excited when that inspection shows up on your calendar? Gonna go do a water test. Maybe we'll find some mold. Wonder if there's a leaky faucet. Like after a while, that gets really old. But it's not about connecting what it is you're doing every day for a living. It's about connecting what it is that it brings you, that you're actually passionate about. Some of you in here are passionate about different charity things you do. Some of you are passionate about what you do with your kids' soccer team. Some of you are passionate about other things. But a successful real estate business is what fuels the ability for you to be able to do those things you're passionate about. And when you start to think like that, you get passionate about your real estate business. Does that make sense? No, I'm not passionate about the 6 houses I get to show today. But when and if they buy, that fuels the thing. And when you start to connect it, you start to associate passion with what you do for a living. Because way too many people in this room have become stale. True? Just waking up, going, waking up, going, waking up. How many of you, when you wake up in the morning, the first thing you do is flip over and look at your phone? It's funny, the longer I wait, more hands go up. Like, it's a fastball question. Like, that is. So we've got to learn how to connect. What is it I'm actually passionate about? What is it, and how does this fuel that? I am not passionate about another flight. I was getting on the flight yesterday, and Mr. Motivation is going, ugh. Like, I don't want to get on. I don't like saying goodbye to my children. But I'm passionate about the impact I get to have with you guys. I'm passionate about the messages I'll get 3 years from now from you telling me you quadrupled your business because of something I said to you today. I'm passionate about the person who's going to... Do you see what I'm saying? So I'm not focused on that flight. I'm focused on what I get to do in front of you, even though it's such a small percentage of my life. Do you guys see how that works? So today, in the short amount of time that I have, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about this thing called get out of your way. I'm going to talk to you about this right here. We're going to talk a little business in the morning here, if that's okay with you. Yes? I'm going to, just so you know. But it always makes everybody feel good to get that agreement. And then in the afternoon, I'm literally just going to go up to roll up your sleeves. We're going to talk actual business strategies, tactics. Like, what's going to happen in the afternoon is that most of you are going to be going, why am I not doing that? And that's what I want you to be doing, okay? Again, I'm not one of these theoretical guys. I'm not one of these, like, I run several businesses. I've sold probably more houses than anybody in this room. Me personally, my business now, so we're now the 3rd largest. In the last 7 years, we've grown to the 3rd largest coaching and training company in North America for realtors, which is crazy, because when I started, I said if we can get 50 students, then I'll be able to do this full time. We coach the number 1 team in the country, the number 1 brokerage in the world, and the number 3, 5, and 7 agents in the whole country. That's not an accident. Do you know what they all have in common? Not one of them is their number 1 source of business referrals. Interesting, isn't it? I love referrals. We're going to talk about that a little bit today. It's not even the number 1 source in our industry anymore, and yet many of you in this room are still putting 100% of your effort towards hope marketing. You run a referral-based business, and I say create a transaction by the end of the day. What are you going to do? Come on, ring. Ring. What are you going to do? You see what I'm saying? So we want you to get referrals. They're awesome. But I'm going to talk to you about some tangible strategies to actually help you get to where you want to go to create a predictable business, okay? Now, for those of you in here that are students and followers and that kind of stuff, number one reason top 100 salespeople in the world. Anybody remember what it is? Crickets. Number one reason top 100 salespeople in the world is something called ability to control, ability to manage their own state of mind. What is state of mind? Yell it out, guys. It's all good. I know we got a big room here. Just yell it out. What's state of mind? Mindset, how you feel, your emotional state, these things. Do you feel differently right now than you did 20 minutes ago? I hope so. Do you feel differently right now than when you first woke up? So there's this thing called state of mind. State of mind is how we feel. It's the emotional mindset at that moment. Does it change all the time? Does it sometimes change and we have absolutely no control over it? What does it mean to wake up on the wrong side of the bed? Is it a good thing or a bad thing? Bad thing. Better question. What does it mean for your spouse? What's it mean for you if your spouse wakes up on the wrong side of the bed? Good thing or a bad thing? Right? Because if your spouse wakes up on the wrong side of the bed, it's not enough for them to be unhappy. They'll be damned if anyone around them is going to be happy. True or not true? And these things create state of mind. We are allowing things like the weather to determine how we feel in the number one reason for the top 100 salespeople in the world. Ability to control, ability to manage your own state of mind. Here's the crazy thing. Most of you in this room already know this subconsciously, but you're not consciously putting effort towards it. Here's what I mean. Could you imagine if someone walked up to you, let's say it's the end of the day, it is go get bread and milk, whatever, and you go to get it, and you are exhausted. But you know that no matter how exhausted you are, if someone goes, "Hey, John," you know how you're supposed to respond. So you're in that grocery store, and someone goes, "Hey, John," how do you respond? Everybody stop. You just heard that? See how high-pitched she went? You ever heard the old saying, the higher pitched someone goes, the more they're lying? Because we know that we can't actually say what we really feel like because it may cost us a sale. Could you imagine if in that moment they went, "Hey, John," and you turned around and went, "Who are you?" "Well, I worked with you 2 years ago." "Oh, hey, how's it going?" How's the market?" "I don't know if I'm going to be in this much longer. It's beating me down. I've been thinking about getting another job, just part-time to make things through, but I don't know. Well, whatever. How are you?" Would anyone in this room ever answer that way? Has anyone in this room ever felt that way? So we know subconsciously that we have to say, "Oh, everything's great. Oh, I'm going to go buy that mansion on the hill, maybe 3 of them, because everything's so tremendous." So we know that we're supposed to act a certain way, and even if we don't feel that way, what we're doing is we're faking. And when you fake and you fake and you fake, it wears you down. It starts to drain you. And then, by the end of the day, you've been drained all day, you've acted happy, you've acted this, you've acted that, you've been beat around. This industry is a roller coaster. For anybody who's new in here, and by the time you get to the end of the day, who sees the worst of you? You get home, you open the door, and you go, "Finally, I can be a witch." Then you're like, "How come we don't have passion anymore? How come we don't?" Because every time you see each other, you're exhausted, which starts to associate exhaustion, because we're faking. We're faking like we're happy. We're faking like Do we have the ability to control state of mind? How much of a downer would this be if I said, "Well, guys, it's very, it's a big thing, but nope." Does music control state? When you want to get pumped up, do you listen to John Lennon's All by My, or Imagine? Do you listen to Celine Dion, All by Myself? Do those pump you up? What do you do? Guys, do me a favor, stand up and say hello to somebody less attractive than you. Go. There's always one guy. Without fail. You can go anywhere in the world. There's always one guy. How do you feel right now that you just laughed? How do you feel? Did it change things? Were chemicals released? Is it fake or real? Laughter has the ability to change how you feel. True laughter. My question always is, how are you starting your day? I gave the example before, and we said, yeah, we're getting up, rolling over, looking at our phones, going crazy, making lunches, doing this, running around, answering emails, answering phone calls, answering whatever, and just go, 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 go. And I have a belief in this business that way too many people are too busy to ever actually be productive. Let's try that again. Way too many people in this industry are too busy to ever actually be productive. And so we're doing those types of things, and yet your morning matters. Do you know what I do for the first half hour of every single morning? My wife makes fun of me sometimes, but it is what it is. Every morning, I read, I pray, I watch good video, good content, every single morning. You go, I don't have a half hour. Great, go waste the next 9 hours of your day. Because it puts me in, people go, what videos are you watching? Some guy said to me recently, are you watching your own videos? I have narcissist written across my forehead. You gotta check this guy out, he's amazing. Anybody? You gotta subscribe on YouTube. This guy's, wow. Most of the time, I'm not even watching some motivational thing. Sometimes I'm watching Jimmy Fallon from the night before. Sometimes I just need to laugh. Does laughter change your state? I just need a moment to focus. This whole choose happiness thing is such a pot of choose happiness. Happiness is an emotion that's controlled by exterior features you have no control over. If I go to leave here, tomorrow morning I gotta go to California, right? And I go to get on that flight and they say flight canceled. I'm happy. No, I'm not. So we're right back to faking. And what does faking do? Wears you down. Happiness is not the goal. You can be grateful. Do you realize everyone... Okay, I don't want you to stand or raise your hand, but the poorest person in this room is the 1% in the world. I want you to think about that for a second. The poorest person in this room, the poorest person in this city has a freaking cell phone. Huh? Oh my God, everything's just this, and I'm having issues with this. Take a break and go watch your 60-inch TV. And then let's regroup. You guys getting me right now? Gratitude is always available. My flight's canceled. I have 2 kids that love me. They're upset I'm not going to be there, but things could be worse. I go to places in my mind I'm not even going to share with you right now sometimes, just to give myself the law of contrast. That you need to learn to do. Your mind does not understand the difference between reality and How many of you have ever woken up from a sleep with a sweat? Raise your hand. Did you at that moment think it was real? Did your mind at that moment think it was real? Your mind does not know have any of you ever had a scary dream and you're just like, whoa, and you wake up and it takes you a moment to is there really a snake here? Did I really fall off a cliff? Everything's, all right, I wet myself, but other than that, that was real. Not real, guys. I've never. Well, not never. When I was younger. It's not going to help you for today, but there was a time in my life when I did wet the bed. But you get my point, though. Your mind does not know the difference, and yet we're not leveraging it enough. 63,000 thoughts a day go through this mind. Did you know that? 80 to 90% of those thoughts, are they positive or negative? How'd you all know that? Well, I just contributed to another negative thought. But it's true. Over 50,000 negative thoughts every single day. And we wonder why our state of mind is not in the right place. Guys, who talks to you more than you? Who spends more time with you than you? Can you imagine if you talk to anyone else the way that you talk to yourself? I want you to think about that for a moment. I said earlier, how many of you have ever been on a diet? And you're all, That was my poor impression of your response. I'm not sure what the heck that was. But I said, did you do that? And everybody's like, yeah, whatever. How many of you have ever broken a diet? How many of you have broken one today? Like they had pastries out there, and you were just like, you know what, screw it. I'll think about working out later, and that'll fix it. Thank you, literally you. Appreciate that. That was my humor. But here's what goes on. We go and we break that, and we sit there and we start asking ourselves the wrong questions. And we go, why did I eat that? And without even thinking, and I just want to be very clear, this is you talking back to yourself. This is not me talking to you. Don't assign this to me, okay? But you say to yourself, why did I eat that? I'm on a diet. And you immediately quit back and go, because you're a fat pig that can't control yourself. I'm ready to win the day. Let's go. And yet if anyone else had said that around you, why did I eat that? You'd be like, honey, it's all right. Like, you'll get them next time. Let's just... If we talk to anyone else the way that we're talking to ourselves on a regular basis, it would be, and we're not understanding how this thing works. Like, we're asking the wrong questions. Why did I eat that? How come I don't have more business? Because you're lazy and don't do what you're supposed to do. Okay. Start asking the right questions. How do I eat better next time? It's a hope-oriented question. Have a salad before, get accountability. So all of a sudden you start coming up with answers which from a state of mind perspective give you hope, and you start thinking, well, now there's hope for the future instead of I'm such an idiot right now. How come I don't have more business? You're lazy, don't do what you're supposed to do. Instead, how do I create business starting now? Well, it takes 41 real estate related conversations to create one transaction. So if I do 8 different conversations that I create Monday through Friday, that's 40 over the course of a week. I'll create one new transaction every single week. Got a plan in place now. I feel hope. Or, come on, ring. Come on. You get me? Start asking the right questions and stop beating the hell out of yourself. And then acting like you're happy and acting like you're in a good mood and acting like everything's great and acting like, why don't you just take the half hour in the morning and put yourself in the place you belong? Why don't you just take the half hour in the morning and start getting some perspective? You know, last week, so here's real deal, guys, okay? I'm going to do this, okay? So last week, I won't say where I was, but I was somewhere, and it was really big, and they had like a, happy hour with Jared, like at the convention center. Like this is about to be overwhelming, right? And I knew I was going to be gone this whole week, and I was like, I just want to go home. I just want to go sleep in my bed. I want to drive my own car. I want to go to my own gym. I want to go in my shower. I want to, right? And I had like this moment where I was just like, oh, why? I just don't want to do this. I just don't want to. And then this little thing in me jumped up and went, people freaking pay you to talk. Shut up. Right? Like when I grew up, everyone would tell me to shut up. They're like, would you stop talking? Now I could literally invoice those people. Perspective. You see? Now your perspective may be different than my perspective, but this thing right now that's beating the hell out of you, you've got to start working it to your advantage. Or you're going to wake up 10 years from now and be nowhere further than you are now. And I don't know about you, but I'm not okay with that. Me personally, I'm not okay with that. I have no advantage over what in fact, many of you had advantages over me. When I started in real estate, I was in a state I didn't grow up in. My sister-in-law was a realtor, so there goes family referrals. Let's be real. What am I going to do? Am I crazy? I just left a great job. Now I got to go and try to create something that's not even there? Within 4 years, I was number 1. Why? Because many of you need to learn what I learned, which is that the one advantage I have on this planet is the one thing for most of you that is your disadvantage, which is this right here. You're worried about the person next to you. You're worried about the spouse that doesn't support you. You're worried about, we'll deal with that later. Let's get you on your side first. You get me? Like, don't expect people around you to support you. Don't expect when you don't even support yourself. Once something makes sense, and you sit down and that's one of the issues, by the way. What are you going to do this year? What's your goal? Great. So what's going to get you there? I'm going to work really hard. Let's try this again. Prove it to me. Why is it going to work? I feel like I'm on momentum right now. Once something makes complete sense, your confidence starts to grow. I shot a video about 3 months ago. I think it's a video I mentioned to you guys. How many of you watch my YouTube videos right now? Just by a show of hands. Thank you. Like in all sincerity, I appreciate that. Thank you. So I shot this video. It's about to cross 100,000 views. When I shot the video, I thought it would have 300 views because it wasn't a sexy title. It was how to gain confidence in sales. It wasn't 7 ways to create transactions. It wasn't, you get me? It was like, I feel like I should shoot it because it's important, but no one's going to watch it. Like no one's going to. Do you know how important confidence is in sales? Like, do you have any idea how important confidence? Not arrogance. When I see an arrogant person, I see a person who has no confidence. And there's a difference. Like the reason why I can get up in front of you 100% confident right now is because I'm pulling from so many different sides. I'm pulling from complete confidence. I'm also pulling from complete humility. I'm in my lane. The only reason I can talk to you the way that I'm talking to you is because I know what I'm talking about right now. Now get me to come up here and talk about fixing a car, and I'll take out a notepad and pen and start learning from, like, I'm in my lane. Confidence. Do you know why people lack confidence? People lack confidence when they lack certainty. It's why many people, when they get into a listing presentation or get into it's why they go to what so many of you go to, which is like me, like me, like me. The skill set in this industry right now is putrid. It's unreal, the level of skill in this industry right now. Do you know why? Because we are an industry of people made up of people who have lived their whole lives being good-looking, being charismatic, being people, being if I get the interview, I get the job, being... And then you step into this industry, and that's everyone. It's no longer a differentiating factor. But we've gotten so used to our whole life, I'm great with people, put me in there, I get the interview, I get the job, I know how to, I'm very charismatic, I'm good looking, and then you get into this business, it's everyone, and you're still doing it. Your success going forward is going to be determined by your ability to substitute skill where talent used to be enough. I'll get back to the notes in a little bit. Just stick with me here. Your success going forward is going to be determined by your ability to substitute skill where talent used to be enough. They say the number one fear people have in life. Number 2 is death. Number 1 is public speaking. And really, it's not public speaking, right? What is it? It's humiliation. You know what? I wasn't going to do this, but I think I'm going to. I need 3 volunteers to just run up here. I need 3 volunteers. Just raise your hand. Somebody. Go. Get up here. 1. I need another one. Where are you at? 2, and then 3. Come on up here. 3 of you. I think I see. Perfect. 3 of you. Come on up here, guys. This Price is Right style. Let's go. I want to give you guys a visual right now. Don't worry, guys. They're not paying me by the hour. Otherwise, I can talk real slow. All right, the 3 of you. I need you right here. Do me a favor. Just stand right here. Don't fall off. We'll deny you were ever here, okay? You just stand right here. How are you? Good. And you, sir, right here? How you doing, man? Hey. Good. Nice to meet you, man. You too. All right, stand right here. So here's what I want to do. I did this at our advance. So somebody asked me recently, I hope you guys don't mind me doing this, okay? I would much rather you guys get something out of being here than me sticking to notes, okay? So about 2 weeks before we did our advance, we do a thing every year with our students where we bring them in. We did it at in San Antonio at the convention center there. And somebody asked me 2 weeks prior, they said, what is the difference? I get it, you spend your time in the morning, I get it, whatever. They're like, what is the difference though? What separates you? Why do you have such confidence? Where does it come from? Now, some of that, let's be honest for a second, is DNA, right? Some of that is DNA. Some of that is not DNA. Do you know what separates me from so many other people that I want everyone in this room to take from whatever I say today, and I want you to start applying it to yourselves? Here's the difference. We live in a world where everything we focus on is on this distance. It's on the distance between where we are right now. This is where I am, but this is where I need to go. This is what I'm working towards. These are the new sales I'm going to start to create. These are the systems that I'm going to. This is the way my relationship's going to be when I get better. This is how I'm... And we have a world, and I do this as well, and this is okay on one level, where we focus so much on the distance between where we are compared to where it is we need to go. Do you know what the problem with only focusing on that distance is? You're never there. You get it? Because even when I get here, come here. There is now here, and now I'm trying to get here. Good, come on back. You follow that? Mm-hmm. So the problem with only focusing on the distance between wherever you find yourself, and everybody's in a different place, and where you want to go, is that you are never there. And there is something happens when you live in a world when you're never enough. Thanks. I'm never complete. Really should have done a switch. That's terrible. You get me, though? And so I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Rambo. I don't care if you're John Wayne. I don't care who you are. There is something that happens to the human psyche when you only focus on the distance between where you are and where you want to be at all times, 100% of the time, because you're never enough. Do you know what I do differently than probably 99.999% of the population? Is that for a little bit of time every single morning, I stop and I focus on the distance between where I am and where I used to be. And I stop and I go, this makes no sense. You get me? Like, I didn't have the resources here. I didn't have the clout. I didn't have the followers I have now. I didn't have the reach in the industry. I didn't have the finances. I didn't have the skills that I've developed. I didn't have any of that, and yet, here I stand. And so when I take a moment and I realize that it makes no sense that I went from here to now here, my confidence starts to grow when I start to look at where I want to go, because it makes no sense. But neither did that. And the distance between the uncertainty starts to become a little more certain. Does that make sense? Give these guys a hand, guys. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Thank you. Does that really make sense to you? There are very few things that are kind of like epiphanies for me at this point. Like, I get what self-help books say. I get, like, that's a tangible thing for me that works, that everyone in this room needs to start grabbing hold of and saying, hey, sometimes you got to tune up the car. Sometimes you got to give it a wash. Sometimes you got to refill the gas. Sometimes you got to... Nobody can go 100% all the time. I think that way too many people are losing before they ever begin. I think that every single person in this room is a different piece on the chessboard. I think that we are blanketing people with what the set way is to do things, and here's how you're supposed to do it, and here's how, and the problem is, we're all different pieces on the chessboard. We respond differently. We learn differently. We have different goals. We have different... Your job is to figure out what piece you are, because you are never going to be happy trying to be a rook when you're really a castle. But you don't know what piece you are until you get in the game. You understand? Like when we left our advance, I had just done like 20 hours of teaching over the course of 2 days. And I brought my wife and my kids, and it was the saddest thing. I had to bring them to the airport, and they were literally getting on at this gate and heading home, and I was getting on this gate right next to it and going off to Alabama for another event. And my wife looks at me and she goes, "How are you not ready to collapse?" She's like, "I didn't even do anything, and I'm exhausted." And I said, "Hon, I'm a different breed. Like, I'm a different piece on the chessboard." And you know what the sad thing is? Everybody in this room is trying to figure out how you're a king or a queen right now. You're never going to be happy until you figure out what you were meant to be. Even pawns have their roles. And they're not happy trying to move a way that they weren't created to move, right? So that applies within your life, that applies within your business, that applies in, there's no one set way to do things. There's no, any of you have children that you're aware of? Raise your hands real high. We're just going ones you're aware of right now, right? Any of you have multiple children? Any of you have multiple children where you have to raise them completely different? You have to discipline them differently? Do any of you, you know what I'm saying? Like, they don't respond to the same things. They're completely different. When I was a kid, my brother used to get grounded constantly. I got caught shoplifting once. I stole some Tic Tacs. My brother knew it. And then he goes, "Jared, let's race to the car." He was trying to get me to I hate him to this day for that reason. So I got caught stealing Tic Tacs. Do you know what my punishment was? I didn't get grounded. My mother said, "I'm disappointed in you." Done. Right? Because I respond differently. Why am I telling you guys this? I'm telling you this because everyone in this room needs to stop playing the cliche like everything is for everyone. That's what that person says. That's what that whatever. What do you really want? What do you really respond to? What do you really love doing every day? What parts of the business? And then you start building out a structure because you are a business where you can delegate the things you don't like. Most of you got into this business because you like the flexibility of schedule. How's that working out? Nobody says, "I want to be in real estate because my God, I'd love to do a ton of paperwork." Right? And yet, what's the reality? But that means you have to stop. What did I say? Too busy to be productive? That means that we have to stop, collect ourselves, and say, where am I? Where do I? And how does it happen? How does it make sense? Because until we stop and do that, we just go through every day, and one day you wake up and you're just older, but haven't gone anywhere. Right? So let's talk a little bit about our industry right now. In our industry right now, or in business in general, it is much more important to be an option than it is to be the best. I want to show you guys a slide real quick. If you can put those slides up real quick, I'd appreciate that. Has our industry changed? Anybody remember the days, like I said, I was my mother's unpaid assistant. Anybody remember the days when like a phone book was more than something used to prop up a child at the table? It's like modern day Google, right? Like it would you'd actually use it, and the way you'd create business is that you would actually call the phone book and you'd say, "Hey, I've got buyers looking in your area." Lie. Do you or anybody know anybody remember those days? Anybody? I want you to remember this. You marry the principles, you date the strategy. It's better to say marry the principal, date the model. Such a cooler saying, but it just doesn't make sense right now. Marry the principal, date the strategy. Principles don't change. Back in those days when you were calling the phone book, what were you trying to do? You were trying to be an option before someone else at a time when someone was looking to buy or sell, right? And the strategy you used was the phone book. That principle still remains. Are we still trying to get in front of people before they make it? Is the strategy changed? Now we have social targeting, we have direct targeted marketing, we have predictive analytics, we've got different types of prospecting, we've got different... You marry the principle, you date the strategy. So what's going on in our industry right now? I'm going to spend a few minutes on this right now, and then we're going to get really in detail on this in the afternoon session. What time's the afternoon session? 12:50? We're going to get really in detail on this. Our industry is an industry where 5 years ago, when I was teaching business growth, 69%, this is according to Real Trends Reports and NAR, 69% of all business was what? Wasn't that lovely? Wasn't it? Hey, my brother's looking to sell. Use my agent Jared. Hey, list their house next week. I'm awesome at sales. There was no sales involved. Fast forward to today. In 2016, less than 44% of business was referrals. By the way, that stat is 12 months old, which means it's actually probably less. In California, less than 15% of business was referrals. Why does that matter? Everyone follows the coast. Because that's the first place they introduced the various softwares and technologies and everything that consumers start using. And here's what's going on right now. Consumer behavior has changed. And we, as business people, unfortunately in too many scenarios, are marketing differently than we are behaving as consumers. I need you to get that. We are marketing in a way that is different than we are behaving as consumers. Why? Because we become romantic about the way you build a real estate business. That's the way my dad did it. That's the way I did it. That's the way, and while we're holding on to those things and becoming romantic, consumer behavior is changing. Last year, 70% of all buyers found their agent where? 75% of all sellers found their agents where? You know, those sucky leads. Here's the difference, though. Here's why it's different. 7 years ago, 10 years ago, when I wanted to start looking at a house or I wanted to start getting serious, I had to go to an open house and then mention to my friend that I went to the open house, and then they referred me to their realtor. In today's world, 7 months before I ever tell it to the overall world, 7 months before I even mention it to my spouse, I jump on Zillow at 1 o'clock in the morning and I start looking at properties. Is this not true? I jump on here and I start filling out forms to get my home valuation. Again, those leads that suck. New stat came out and said 30% of all people who filled out a home valuation sold their house within 12 months. But the leads suck. I'm going to throw something out there. Maybe it's the leads. Maybe it's not the leads that suck. Well, I called them and they said they weren't looking to sell. Here's a question. I want everyone to answer together. You go into a furniture store. You walk 30 feet in. Mr. or Mrs. Salesperson walks over to you and says, "Can I help you?" All together now, how do we respond? Isn't it amazing you all knew that? That's right, Mr. or Mrs. Salesperson. I specifically dragged my kids out on a weekend, drove to this exact location, and am making a beeline to the dining room section because I'm not looking for a dining room table. And then Mr. or Mrs. Salesperson went back to their sales manager and goes, "Well, these leads suck today." What did I say before? I said we are an industry right now that has such a disconnect between actual sales skills, it's sickening. Things have changed. The average process for the average buyer or seller right now is 3 to 18 months. 3 to 18 months. 92 to 96% of all people, whether they're buying or selling, start where? 72% of them still work with the first person they have a conversation with. Well, I called them once, they didn't return. while consumer behavior is changing, you want to hear something crazy? The last 5 years, the number of people that have used a realtor when selling, the last 5 years has gone up consecutively every single year. For sale by owners have gone from 83 to 89% of them end up using a realtor. It's this amazing thing. While they've got more information, they've got more data at their hand, they've got more, they're still using you on a higher percentage base. But unless they're referred to you or they respond on your first call and go, yeah, I want to sell, bring your listing agreement. How's 9%? You're going, these leads suck. Why? Because you have to actually do sales now? Oh, gasp. But for those of you that learn the actual skills, you have such an advantage over everybody else in your marketplace. How many of you have ever gone to an open house and asked the question to a potential buyer, are you working with an agent? Raise your hand. Okay, now put your hand down. This is not to you. In fact, I'm going to look up in the balcony. That is the dumbest question you can ever ask. And we're back. Because in their mind, they're going, oh, that's all I have to do to get rid of you? Oh, yeah, I'm working with an agent. Yeah, definitely. Working with an agent. What's their name? I don't remember, but yeah, I'm working with them. Is this not true? Because our sales skills are lacking. The question is, do you have anybody sending you good deals? Completely different question. Completely different psychological response. The quality of your answers will always be determined by the quality of the questions you ask. You've seen that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio where they make the places with their minds. What's it called? Inception? That is not a little bit like. That's 100% what sales are like. You plant the seed, you make people think about things that you want them to think about and make decisions about what you just planted. 6 months ago, I had no intention of getting new dining room cushions in my home. Then my wife called me like the salesperson she is. And she didn't even go yes, no close on me. She went either or close. And she goes, I just sent you 2 pictures. Which one would you like to get? I mean, we're being honest, I don't want either one of them. But that wasn't on the table. So she didn't go yes, no close. She went either or. This one or that one. And I don't even think she knows what she was doing. But I promise you 10 seconds prior, on the list of things that were on my mind, dining room cushions were not anywhere near. And yet here I am. That one? And there's dining room cushions in my home now, new ones. Because it was the quality of your answers will always be determined by the quality of the questions that you ask. She put the right question in front of me, which made me make a decision and answer in a way that was going to get her what she wanted. We're getting seller leads from people, home valuation leads. They want to know the value of their home. Well, I called them and they said they weren't really looking to sell. Well, I guess they're not. Or maybe they're furniture storing you. But here's what we do. We call them up. Let me know if this sounds familiar. Get a lead. You call them up and you go, hi, this is so-and-so from so-and-so Realty. I got your request for the value of your home. I want to get that back to you. If you can give me a call back as soon as you can, I can be reached at blank. I'm looking forward to hearing back from you. Does that sound familiar to anybody in here? Does it sound like what every single one of you say when you get a lead? Because in my mind, I'm going, boring. I'm going, that's what 12 other agents responded to them. It does not separate you at all. So let's talk a little, can we do a little sales skills 101 just really quick, guys? Is that, I want you to get something. You call the person up. First off, you do an immediate second call, because many times they don't pick up just because they don't recognize the number. And then what happens is when you call back 3 seconds later, now they go, well, maybe it's somebody I know from a number I don't, and now they pick up. 72% of all people work with the first person they have a conversation with. Your goal is that conversation. They need to see you're a human. But let's say you still don't get them. What do you do now? You call them up. Do you immediately send them a home valuation? It amazes me the number of people in this industry who have tech platforms that are setting up landing pages for people and sending out automatic valuations. They have no reason to contact you now. Even we know it's inaccurate. They know it's kind of inaccurate. But why in the world? You see? So you call them up, immediate second call, don't get them, leave a voicemail. Hi, this is so-and-so from so-and-so Realty. Just got your request for a home valuation. I'm actually working on it right now. Dangle the carrot. You have leverage right now. Don't tell me that someone that put in their personal information that was going to go to a complete stranger is a bad lead. There's a level of seriousness in that. I'm going to put in my personal information. I don't know who's on the other end because I'm not interested. Anyone following? Just got your request. Want to get that right over to you? I'm actually working on it right now. Dangle the carrot. I just need one more thing. Makes them think they're super close. What's the one more thing I need? To get into your house. But I needed to talk to them first because they need to see that I'm a human. 72% work with the first person they have a conversation with. Working on it right now. I just need one more thing. I'm going to be at this number for the next 30 minutes. Look forward to hearing back from you. What did I just do right there? I dropped a deadline. Why did I drop a deadline? Most people have every intention of calling you back, but then they start getting the kids ready, and then they start going over here, and then they completely forget about it. It's not that they're bad people. They just get stuck in life just like you do. So when you don't put a deadline on it, they go, I'll get back to them later. You don't believe that? How many of you have ever had a situation where you finally had a clear schedule, you had so many things to do on your to-do list, and you went, finally I can get all this stuff done, and you got to the end of your day and went, I got nothing done. Say aye. Does life get busy? It's no different for them. Got your request? I'm working on it right now. I just need one more thing. I'm going to be at this number for the next 30 minutes. Drop a deadline. Watch how many more of them call you back now. Here's the cool thing about a deadline too. It gives you the ability or an excuse to call back again later if they don't. Because you weren't available after that 30 minutes. So what you do later if they don't call back is you then call them up again and say, hey, I saw some missed calls from numbers I didn't recognize. I assume one of them is you. Just gave them the scapegoat. You see that? Do you guys remember, I'm going to see how many examples I can use that make no sense but to three people. You remember Cable Guy? The Cable Guy with Jim Carrey? Yeah. It's way too many of you. I've got to think of another. But remember how he was like psychotic and he was like a stalker and he just wanted like Matthew Broderick to like call him back and he's standing next to the phone and at one point he just keeps calling him, and by the way, you play the role of a stalker in this, and he calls him back and he goes, I just went to the bathroom, I heard the phone ring, call me, we'll talk about it, right? Like, you guys remember that? So again, terrible example because that's the role you're playing here, but when you leave a deadline and they don't call back, it gives you the ability to call them in the afternoon and go, hey, I saw a couple missed calls from people I didn't recognize, I assume one of them is you. I still want to get this to you. I just need one more thing. I'm going to be at this number for the next 25 minutes. Another deadline. Is that a little different than, hey, I got your request, give me a call when you get a chance? Do you see the difference in skill compared to what we're doing right now? And yet many people in here are going to go, well, I just don't believe in scripts. I'm not a scripted person. Great. Next time you get into an awkward conversation, don't you dare bring up the weather, since you don't believe in dialogues or scripts. You hear me? Like, what we're saying is we don't want to be the person calling at dinner, reading a script and trying to sell a vacuum cleaner. But you use scripts and dialogues all the time. Oh, the weather. How about it's been rainy here? Oh, it's going to get warm next week. That's a dialogue. So the idea is not to sit there and read something and go, well, Mrs. How many of you ever followed a script and they did not say what they were supposed to say? And you're like, oh, crap. Like, any of you ever had that experience? The idea is to so internalize it that it's just a part of you, because the quality of your answers will be determined by quality of the questions you ask. You need to know where you're trying to take them. Why do you think I don't need to look at notes? I know where I want you to go. How I get there might be different every single time, and I'm cool with that. But I've got it here because I believe in skill. I believe in actually being good at my job. I believe in actually knowing what I'm talking about. I believe in not just winging it every time I get in front of somebody. Because when you have that mentality and you don't have the skill, what did I say you'll do before? Anytime you get in an uncomfortable situation where the certainty is a little lacking and it doesn't seem to be going your way, you're going to go, like me, like me, like me. Let me find some way to get you to like me. That's what everyone in this room is going to do. And people don't work with people because they like them. They work with people because they trust them. And those are two completely different things. There is a person in my state who is like the number one person in that region of the state. I'm being very vague right now. She's the number one, and she's an absolute bastard. Like nobody likes her. And yet everybody uses her. Why? Because they trust her to get the job done. Now, I want people to like you. I'm not telling you to turn into, right? But I'm just saying, when you're going to likability, they're going to someone else. Skills matter. One of our students asked us yesterday, we did a virtual thing every week, and one of our students goes, I had this guy, he sat me down, and like I was ready, I watched your whole listing presentation, how to win the listing on YouTube, and I was ready to go, and she's kind of new, and she's like, I couldn't wait, I was going to hit all the different things, and it was going to be like some kind of Yoda ninja stuff where I was going to make him do what I wanted him to do, and then he just sits me down and he goes, none of this stuff matters if we don't agree on commission first, so let's get that out of the way. She's like, I didn't know what to do. What do I do? The skills were lacking in that area. So she asked me this question. I said, here's what you do. It's pretty simple. Different people you got to deal with differently. That's obviously an alpha person. That is like a, And I said, here's what you do. You tell the person, great, you want to negotiate commission first. I have no problem doing that, but I want to make an agreement with you right now. If you win this negotiation, you have to promise me that you will never hire me to sell the largest asset you're ever going to own. And then just stop. And watch them get confused, like, I guess I can't use the person I beat up yesterday, but I also don't want to win this negotiation because that was pretty crafty. I don't know what to do right now. That's called skill set. You see? Many of you in this room are going to do a lot better if you start developing your skills and not just winging it. And the funny thing is, I said this in the beginning, it's not because you're lacking in it, it's not because you guys aren't smart enough, it's not because you're just winging it. I tell people all the time, I could come into any one of your marketplaces and dominate. Why? Because I understand what I'm going to teach you in the second session, which is that all that matters is being an option, not being the best. I'd be an option for everybody in the area because I know how to do it. We're going to talk a little bit about that in the second session. I need more people to say no to me. I need to have a chance for more no's. Someone told me recently, I have a 92% closing ratio on my listing presentations. I said, that is terrible. You are obviously only working with your family and friends. So yeah, you have a 92% ratio, but you listed 8 houses this year. So what's better, a 70% rate listing 40? Or, you see? I want you to take notes here. We've got 10 minutes left here, I think. I want to cover with you really quickly here the 5 things that will keep you from growing, and these are going to lead us into, how many of you are coming to the second session today at 12:50? How many of you are going to come get a signed book right after this? So literally, let me get through the expo. I can't do like a stop and let me get to the expo and get to the corner. I'll sign the books. I will do whatever, I'll take pics, I'll answer questions, but you got to let me get to that corner. Deal? It's always one. I'm in the back corner. It's like back right, somewhere back there.
There's only 2 back corners.
Yeah, so you'll see me. You'll see me, okay? 5 things that will keep you from growing. Number 1 is leadership issues. Those are self issues. Those are the state of mind issues. Those are the things where you're spending way too much time on the other things in your business and not enough on the thing that actually runs it. Putting premium gasoline in a Pinto, you get me? Still a Pinto. And I apologize if you drive a Pinto in this room, okay? But even you know it's a Pinto, all right? Leadership issues. Number 2, lack of scalable systems and tools. Guys, you know what I'm going to do for you today? because it drives me nuts when I have to go over things quickly and I can't go into like really great details. I'm going to give you an email. I told you I'm not selling you a thing today, okay? I'm going to give you an email when I'm done here that for everybody in here that shoots an email to, we're going to keep track of that at my company. Within 2 days, we're going to send out to everybody who sent it a page that has all sorts of training for free, has all sorts of scripts and dialogues, has all sorts of templates that I'm going to use in the second session for free. I'm going to give you as much as I can for free. Would that be helpful? So a lot of these dialogues I'm talking about and more, don't try to write them. I'm going to give them to you for free. Okay? I'll give you an email at the end, and I'm going to give you training in the second session when I'm talking about how to be an option and how you actually set that up and what that looks like from a step-by-step perspective. I'm going to put a 90-minute training on there that you can watch, fast forward, slow down, whatever you want to do, so you can actually get something as a result of me being here. Helpful? Yes. Good. So lack of scalable systems, processes, tools, these things. We have the will to grow, but we don't have the systems in place to actually make it happen. That's a lot of people in this room. Number 3, lack of predictable marketing. How many of you know what a KPI is? As a small business, guys, a KPI is what's called a key performance indicator. A key performance indicator are the things that you're actually doing every day that add to your bottom line, that actually add to your business growth. Here's what I know. If you don't know what a KPI is, then you sure as heck aren't following them every day. There are 3 KPIs I want you focusing on from here on out. 1 is predictable marketing, lead creation on a regular basis. Time block. I shot a video on YouTube. You can go watch it for free on time blocking, how you actually set aside time for the things you need to do. One of them is creating predictable marketing on a regular basis so you have more opportunities on a not just when you get slow, that's not when you market. Everything's great, so I'm not going to do anything to grow. Oh my God, I'm slow, I better start doing. That is not a business. So 1 is predictable marketing. 1 is setting appointments. Leads don't grow your business. Appointments do. If you don't know how to turn a lead into an appointment, leads are nothing more than a waste of time. So 1 is creating appointments. 1 is creating predictable marketing, predictable leads on a regular basis. And the 3rd, which you're all going to love, is practice. Practicing on a regular basis. The time to practice is not in front of your clients. I was watching a game last night, and I'm pretty sure that wasn't the first time they shot a basketball all week. You follow? Practice in your office. Practice with an accountability practice. Practice with your coach. Practice does not happen in front of your clients. Number 4 is lacking the necessary skill set to grow. That's your practice. You can't impart something you don't have. You can't grow a business and give somebody something that you don't. Number 5 is patience. Understand the world we live in right now. Understand the process we follow. Understand that people are not reacting right away. Understand that 90% of the people you work with are 9 months out. We used to be an industry where it was enough to get in front of people when they were ready to buy and sell. That was called the referral-based world. We are now an industry where you have to get in front of people when they're ready to learn. You follow that? We're now an industry which means you have to have scalable systems, which means you have to have automatic follow-ups, which means you don't remember what you've forgotten. Well, I've got my system. I call people. No, you've forgotten a ton. You just don't remember. That's not a business. That's not how it functions. The email I want you guys to send to, if you could put those slides up real quick. All of you send an email. If you want that free training, free scripts, free dialogues, all that stuff, send an email. You can do it right from your phone right now to yes@jaredjamestoday.com. Guys, I'm going to give you these slides for free too. I saw a lot of you taking pictures. yes@jaredjamestoday.com, not jaredjames.com. yes@jaredjamestoday.com. I'll end with this right here, guys. For any of you that want to connect, you can go to connectwithjared.com. All of the places I'm on there. A lot of you already are. I do something different on every platform. Feel free to send me questions. When I'm on the plane later, I'll answer anything you want. I try to really personally respond to every single person. Just go to connectwithjared.com, YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, all those places. Guys, there are 3 things that create change. How many of you have gotten some kind of a thing just this morning, before we even go into the tangible business growth stuff this afternoon, where you kind of went, I need to do something a little different? How many of you have had that epiphany in here? Say I. So there are three things that create change in this world. There are three things that create change in your life. One is crisis, one is major life events, and one is inspiration. Crisis is the idea that you have somebody who goes 10 years, can never stop smoking, and all of a sudden they go into the doctor and they say, "You're going to die." And they go, "Done smoking." Major life event is that same person who goes 10 years, can't stop smoking, and all of a sudden they have a grandkid born, and they go, "I want to be at their wedding." Done smoking. The third one, because I don't want to have anything to do with the first two. I don't want to create crisis, I don't want to create major life event. The third one is called inspiration. Inspiration is when you're able to connect enough the motivation you feel at this moment with why you need to actually get there. What happens if you don't get there? I hope that through the course of today, now and at the next session, I can create enough inspiration that enough of you do something different and are able to send me one of those messages 3 years from now that literally make my world, okay? I'm going to rush off, guys. I hope we stay connected on all the platforms. I'm going to go rush to the expo. I'll see you guys there. I've got like 80 to 100 free books. I'll give them to you for free. Thank you so much, guys.